Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to this edition of the Roland Grimes Sports and Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Roland Bubba Grimes. Thank you again for joining us this week. And as always, I have my residential archaeologist to my side, Mr. Self-Empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Wilbert Skipper. As I've said to you before, and I'm not going to change, we have another dynamic show on schedule for you today. This gentleman is a Mr. George Clayton, and he is a fashion guru, as I call him, to many people. He's going to tell you a little bit about it as we go along. However, he has a very compelling story in general in terms of where he came from, what he's doing now, and what he's about to do as he moves into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our guest, Mr. George Clayton. George, check it out now. Occasionally, when people come on, I talk about how impeccably dressed they are. However, with you, I never get to say that because I think you sleep impeccably dressed.
It's cut out for it.
It's just cut for it. Let me ask you a question, man. And it's sort of a sidebar, so y'all forgive me if I go too far. Let me ask you this question. Do you ever come out of uniform?
The answer to that question is no. No, well, you know, what they say is first impression is an everlasting impression. And it's very so often that you get a chance to change that first impression. So try to, get the best the first time.
You know, I talked to a few people who are, they detail cars. Mm-hmm. And one thing I noticed is that their car is always tight. And they said, well, if my car isn't looking good, then how can I advertise, a detailing business if my car is dirty? Now, do you sometimes feel the same way in terms of your personal ensemble? Are you your own advertising car?
I am.
A walking billboard.
A walking billboard. And word of mouth. But more importantly, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you play good. And when you play good, you get paid good.
Okay, let me see. Feel good, work good, play good.
All the good stuff is in one.
When we go back and look at this tape, man, I want to make sure I get that down. Now, I just need your permission. Do I need to copyright that, or could I just put it on the website?
Well, your show is copyrighted.
So we're working out. So with George, one of the things I want you to do, very, very slow for people. I want them to understand George Clayton from going back to the days of Washington, D.C. Of course, you and I, we played basketball against each other many times, and our friendship go way back.
I just want to know who won.
well, let's put it this way. George and I did the same thing. We were both scorers. We both played very well. And I would say that we're even.
Okay.
Everybody won. How about that?
Okay, that works for me.
So, George, take us back. Take us back to the days in D.C. before you, came up with this ideal of fashion. I mean, take us back and walk us through how that came about.
Well, fashion has been around for an awful long time. In my family, we didn't have much but each other. Believe it or not, the thrift stores were our best friends. And once you have an eye for what you like, in D.C. is a very unique city. We could leave and go anywhere else, and they'll copy what we do. It's just something that we have that we have just in D.C. Just some very unique people. So when you don't have much, your creativity is just magnified. And I grew up around a lot of creative people. Some were a little bit too creative for the law, but
yeah, we had some of those friends.
Yeah, but so your imagination, it grows, and then you make something out of nothing, and then once you have it, that eye, and then you start using it, and then people start appreciating it, and then you could go into a thrift store and get a tweed blazer jacket, watch an old movie or old film, Humphrey Bogart, some of those guys, Fred Astaire. He was one of the best dressed guys wearing a tuxedo that's ever put on a tuxedo. Is Fred Astaire. And so you don't see color, you see the image, and you see style and grace. So you learn from everybody. And then I just took it from that point on, and then people started to notice and recognize. And the same way we're playing basketball, we all wore those little, I guess it was $7, $8 Chuck Taylor All-Stars.
Well, you were doing a lot better than me, because during that time, my dad shopped at Grand Union, and he would he'd come home, and I had 3 pair of Jeepers, sliding all over the place, but didn't stop there 40 foot.
That's right. I never was going to stop there. So, you know, everybody had the same tennis shoe, but, you know, we might change the shoelaces. We might put some bleach on our shoes and see who can get their shoes the whitest, and we just took it from there. So that transferred over to the clothing piece, and then my grandparents and my mom and their parents, they were all of them were all dressers. So I've been in a suit since I was probably 2.
You know, it's interesting. So indulge me, if you will. Now, when I was growing up, I looked at fashion as being a uniquely and pretty much secretively a female-oriented sport. Now, how did you migrate into this business? What made you decide to take a chance on guys like Bubba running around beating on you because you were so busy in fashion while we were lifting? I mean, what is it that helped you one to get the courage to do it, especially during a time when, socially speaking, it wasn't the sexy thing to do?
Well, I don't know what area you grew up in.
Just like you.
All I know is that in Southeast, you had some of the most prettiest girls in Southeast.
Correct.
So,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So you know, if you look like a bum, they weren't going to mess with you. You look good, then they would talk to you. So what I learned from watching other professional athletes, this is how I got into it. I didn't grow up, you know, oh, this is what I want to do. No, I grew into this. I was an athlete all my life, but I always would watch the guys that were on a higher level, like a Walt Frazier, and he pretty much put a picture in my mind that class, dressing, stylish is you know, all that's in. And he was in New York, and he was the first player to have a Rolls Royce. And from that point on, I started following him and watching the way he carried himself, and that's how I carried myself off the court. So one thing I try to make very popular is not just being an athlete, but being a student athlete. So once I reached junior high school, I didn't wear tennis shoes to school. No high school. That was my thing. So you didn't know if I was a jock or if I wasn't, you know. And then from that point on, then I just started adding a little bit. It doesn't take much, you know, because back in the '70s, the big style was a nice, fresh starched shirt, some jeans, and a blazer. And that's where you started. And that's all we had. But that look was, I mean, it ran. It's still running.
Still going.
It's still going.
Still going.
You know, it's a hit. So it don't take much. You know, for every man, I recommend every man to have a navy blue suit. No matter what field you're in, you have to have a dark suit. You know, gray suit, and you in. You know, it don't take much. 3 or 4 different shirts, a couple of ties, switch them around.
So you didn't catch a lot of flack from us when you were making that transition into that industry?
Nah, because a lot of guys, I mean, when we was growing up, nobody talked about fashion. This is just something that I grew into. I wasn't talking to other guys about fashion, no. But some of the good ball players that I grew up with, a lot of them had really good taste, you know, but we didn't have the money. So we had to wait for it to come down through their brothers, you know, and then they come down to you,
sometimes.
You know, and you wait on it, but when you got it, you know, you made it work. You know, took the shoes down to the Mr. Everhard, the shoe guy. He put a new sole on your shoe, get a spit shine on them, and you know, take the shirts and get them starched. And I mean, we did all kind of creative stuff, man.
Man, I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited over here. I'm thinking we grew up in the same household.
You know, Lysol. You know, they have regular soap, Lysol. What's that you making? Well, look like a pie. No, that's Lysol.
We're gonna get into some of those tricks in a minute.
Absolutely. I think basically what you're saying in terms of some of our audience viewers, the audience participants, they'll probably agree with me on this. Brand new money? Is that what we call it? Brand new money?
Yeah, they call it brand new money, old money, whatever it is. I mean, and we got it. You don't even ask questions when you got it.
Right, exactly.
You just did it.
No, when we're getting started. So let's take me. I'm a novice. Okay, I'm getting started. Now, what happens is you're going to look at someone And do you say to them, or will you say to them, hey, this looks good on your frame, this doesn't? How do you indoctrinate a person into your world of design, a customer?
Okay, as far as being an image consultant, that's the image consultant part that I do. So I can say things to a potential client that the average person couldn't say.
Okay.
And it's
So
like
you can break on.
I can break on, you know.
Okay.
But I have to also, but I also have to realize that this is the same person who's employing me, who's
So
gonna,
you building them up
pay
as
me.
well, right?
So you know, like Larry Brown, he's famed NBA basketball coach, and I was up in Philly when he was coaching Iverson up there, and I said, Coach, I said, you know, how do you coach some of these players with these egos and different things like that? He said, well, George, you know, we have a thing that we do. It's called the single scoop. I said, what's that, Coach? He said, well, you tell a player what you want to tell him, and then you give him a single scoop of what he does well.
Interesting. Great philosophy.
And I said, okay. I said, I need to try that on my nephew. And I did it. And I came back to Coach Brown and said, Coach, that was the best advice I've ever received on dealing with an athlete. You know, I said, it worked. I said, but sometimes he acts like he's not listening to me. And he said, he's listening to you. He just don't want his friends to know that he's learning.
Wow.
And it's from Larry Brown. And we've been friends ever since. So his brother, Herb, was assistant coach with my best friend, Mike Woodson, with the New York Knicks now, but he was with Atlanta. And he was Coach Woodson's assistant. And Herb said, I told Herb what I said to Larry. He said, well, you know, he said, George, now we got the double scoop now. I said, the double scoop? Yeah. I said, Coach,
this generation.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. It's this generation. You know, this is what you have to do to these
changing times of
these new school athletes.
You know, interesting, Skip. George, we're going to take a quick station break. Hey, folks, we're going to come back and we're going to find out some more of these lessons that George has learned from some of these folks that we read about and see on television. We're going to take a station break. We'll be back shortly to the Roland Grimes Sports and Entertainment Show. Keep it locked. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Welcome back, Roland Grimes Show. Hey, folks, Skip, you got a couple things.
Absolutely. George.
Yes.
Take us back. You talked about fashion, and you talked about how you got started. You talked about the enrichment of the family in terms of the creativity and things of nature. Who was the first celebrity client that you brought on board? And I know it took off from there, but who was that first client that you were actually able to perform all these wonderful fashion ideas for in terms of style before you went on to others?
Probably my best friend, Mike Woodson.
Mike Woodson?
Yeah. Head coach of New York Knicks now. And just by being around him and guys like Magic and Isaiah, Michael, those guys going to the All-Star games and being a part of that whole circle and the love that I received from the onlookers gave me the encouragement that I had something. I had something to work with. And I had the desire, I always had the desire, and I just used that as a springboard, and I've never looked back.
Now, all of the people that you work with are not A-list celebrities or athletes, entertainers. So tell me a little bit about when a person decides to come to you and they want to do business with you. How do they approach you? How do they find you? And what are you looking for from them to determine, hey, this is the kind of person I want to work with?
Well, everybody I deal with is an A-lister.
Gotcha.
That's just the way I am. My best customer is my current customer, the people who I'm with. And anything outside that circle, anybody that's coming inside that circle, we just sit down and we just talk. And going through the interviewing process, it's not even a money thing. I mean, I got guys that I don't think they call themselves custodians anymore, but I got guys who over schools, and those are some of my best dressed guys. And reason why they're some of my best dressed guys is because they only put on a suit maybe once a week, if that's, or twice a week, Saturday or Sunday when they're going to church. But I make sure that they get the special books, so when they put that suit on, they putting a suit on and they stand out, they look good, they feel good about who they are and what they have on, and they have a confidence, and they bring me, I say, probably more business than some of my athletes and coaches.
Understood.
Yeah,
because you're gonna have more numbers of masses than you are these athletes and entertainers anyway, correct?
Yeah, and you know, with you know, guys, you know, sidebar, we say, you know, a lot of women, they have low self-esteem, and then, but I always tell guys, I say, no, we're the ones that suffering from that.
Oh, y'all didn't hear that.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna strike that from the record.
Yeah.
We have no. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I say because men dress for women, and women dress for women. I mean, men. But that's the reason why we shave and we bathe and we get dressed.
That's why we go to work, basically.
So, you know, and women, they make us feel really special, you know, because they like a well-groomed, man. When he goes there,
exactly.
You know? And so
makes sense to me. Look, Skip, before you jump in, I just want to say something real quick, and then I just kind of want you to respond to it. And the time that I've known you, we've had a couple of conversations. I've had you around a couple of times. Thank you for a number of things, including adjusting your schedule. But this is what I kind of notice about you. You have an intensity about you. You have a purpose. Even in your eye, you have this. I wouldn't say gleam, almost like an intention in what you do when you talk to people, the way that you approach them, the way that you engage them, the questions that you ask, the way that you. Now, is this professionally developed? Is some of this just comes from what mom and dad was teaching you while you were growing up? Is this a personality thing? When people deal with George Clayton, they're not just getting someone who's going to talk to them about their clothes. I'm also noticing that you are a extraordinary individual behind this image consultant and this fashion design. What is it about you that made you decide to bring it to this industry, and what is it about this industry that's made specifically for George Clayton?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I'm glad that's what I thought of it.
No, that's, I mean.
First time you've been asked that one.
but
I loaded.
Yeah, but coming from a friend, you know, and then being interviewed and being put on the spot, I mean, that's a haymaker.
Yeah.
It really is. But to answer your question, I would have to say, coming from where I grew up, and from my humble means, and from the guys that were in the community, you know, you get there's two ways.
Keep it grounded.
There's two ways to learn where I grew up. So you know, you can either listen the first time or you can get what's coming the second time.
Listen to what George Clayton said.
Coach Todd Bozeman called it the pain of regret or the pain of discipline.
Pain of regret.
Either way, you're going to feel it.
And that's one of my clients too, Todd. Todd's a good guy.
So part of that, no question. So part of that, and part of growing up, you were saying. Yeah.
So you learn. There's two ways to learn, and then once you learn the system that way, then you develop a sense of character, and then it's certain rules, certain things that you just don't break. You know, it's just certain things you just don't do, and if you do that, then you're gonna suffer. You gotta suffer the consequences. And then being in the community where there's a whole lot of things going on, you know, your rep is all you have. So you know, one thing I learned early is you don't mess with somebody else's woman, you don't mess with somebody else's money, and you don't mess with somebody else's food. And I've always stuck by those principles, and I've never had no problems in life.
Well, you can hang out with me anytime.
Yeah. George Clayton's lessons.
He's not gonna mess with my food. It's not.
Now, George, we know you do this wonderful job in fashion. Your design of clothing is impeccable.
Thank you.
But from what I understand, you are also making chef wear for Chef Connie. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Is that a first for you? And is that something that happens with a fashion designer?
Yes, it does happen, but you have to be open for it to happen. Chef Connie is Puff Daddy's ex-manager. She went to college with him at Howard, and she was the first one to manage him for 15 years. She also managed Biggie Smalls. And I met her through another friend. I've never done a chef jacket in my life, but when she said this is, when I sat her down and we interviewed each other, I did my homework prior the night before. So what I always try to use is what I call the 6 Ps, which is proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. So before I met her, I went to the fabric store and I had a vision of what I had envisioned for her. So I went and got all the swatches, put them in my car. So when I went inside to meet her, we hit it off. So I said, come on out, let's go out to the car. I said, I'm gonna show you my vision for you. And I showed her all the swatches, and that opened up the floodgates. And she said, you who I want, you who I'm looking for. So she had a press release that she needed to have some photographs in a chef jacket. So I made her 2 chef jackets, and my design came to me. I said, I need to make something that she can go anywhere and feel comfortable and not feel like she's the help and she doesn't have to go stand in the corner. So what I did was, her favorite color is purple, so I made her a purple jacket with a tuxedo collar, tuxedo wrist with her name on it. Then I made an all black pair of pants with the tuxedo stripe coming down. So I said, you can go anywhere under the sun and feel like, you know, you belong. And then she received that one. And then they had another function, it's called Way of the Nation, which is on HBO right now. And HBO came to her school and they filmed it, and it's on now. It's running now. And I made her another chef jacket with her school colors, and everything just fit right in, and that's it.
And by the way, folks, for everybody that's watching the show, Chef Connie is soon to be a celebrity chef. She's right in our backyard, Baltimore, Maryland. So please follow her and support her.
All right. Hey, folks, look, we're going to take another pause for the calls on the Roland Grimes Sports Entertainment Show. We'll be back and close up with Mr. George Clayton in just a few minutes. Y'all sit tight. Hey, folks, once again, as always, taping live from the Zone Restaurant here in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Once again, thank you for joining Roland Grimes Sports Entertainment Show with my co-host, Mr. Self-Empowerment, Wilbur Skipper. We're going to wrap this segment up with Mr. George Clayton. And the next thing I want to say to you, George, is look, man, one of the things I don't want to do is give the wrong impression to our audience. You know, we pride ourselves on giving people a chance to see this world from different angles in terms of sports, education, entertainment. The way we've described this thing so far is a bed of roses, a panacea utopia. Nothing goes wrong in the world of George Clayton in fashion. However, there's something inside of me that says that's not always the case. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those difficulties, trials, tribulations, and some of the things you've done to compensate for overcoming, or some of the things that just we weren't able to deal with at all?
I say the toughest thing in my business to deal with is a lot of us run in the same circles. So you're just talking about going to the ESPYs or the NBA All-Star games or conventions. A lot of the same people who you design for, money comes into play. And I never want to fall out of place with a friend over money. That's something that you just learn. And if it's $1,000, the guy takes it, he goes his way. The way I was raised, that's a small price to pay to get rid of a rat. Unfortunately, some of the people that come to me, they're not who they say they are. They buy things, and then when it's time to pay, it doesn't get paid, but then you see him on television, and you're like, wait a minute, I just sent that to him last week, and I haven't received any payment. So then you don't hear anything, and then now you're chasing people for money, but you're chasing, high-end people, and when you go to these functions, you see them, So that
you can't just walk up to him.
That's the hardest thing. It's like, well, you know, what do I say? He's got his
Right.
wife there. He's got his family. You don't want to embarrass him. Excuse me, can we talk sidebar? But I said, you know what? I said, you know, if he's a real man, he's going to do what he's supposed to do, and he'll be back, because part of what I do is I educate.
Yeah.
And I say, well, first of all, I'm going to give you the best product and the best fabric, and second of all, I'm going to educate you. Now, if you choose to go somewhere else for whatever the reason is, because people, that's just how we are. We always want to look for the best bang for our buck.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you know, you getting the best product. And if my motto is, I'd rather pay for it once than to have it and then have to pay for it twice. So that's right.
Now, George, for all of the men and women that are thinking about fashion, can you give a few tips as to what they should do in the beginning to, you know, actually, you know, work around all the wonderful things that goes along with fashion? I mean, what would be one of the first couple things that you would say for anybody who's looking to get in fashion?
Well, I think that they need to do a self-internal check and see and ask themselves, do they have a PhD? Do they work with a PhD? And that goes for just not only in fashion, but any field.
Why PhD? Tell us what you mean by that.
PhD is, you know, that's where you do things with passion, you do things with your heart, and you do things with your desire.
PhD.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and if you have that,
That's a good starting point.
yeah, that's a great, because you're starting with yourself, and it doesn't take much, but some confidence and some courage, you know, and then you plan, you know, what you want to do, and you get with some people that have goals,
Right.
and then you go from there.
Now, when it comes to our clothes, a lot of idiosyncrasies. Every individual, you know, I think I look good at something that he might not think I look good at, but I feel good at it. So even if I don't necessarily look, y'all stop. So even if I don't necessarily
Caught the
look,
reaction.
I feel good at it, so I'm going to do it. But
Right.
you might look at me and you say, well, I know how you feel, young man, but I'm not sure this is what. I mean, when you deal with those people, our idiosyncrasies, how do you gauge it? How do you work with it? How do you work around it? Or when do you just say, you know, sometimes you just got to fold up and walk away from it?
Well, what I'll do is I'll ask you how you think you look, and then I'll get some pictures of some other people that probably have the same body type that Skip has, and say, now, these are some of the things that I would change with this guy, and then he would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, so therefore we have eliminated that. And basically, I'm talking to them indirectly.
So you get a third
There gotta
party.
be a therapist as well, too, you know.
Well, it sounds like
Yeah.
also you keep your
That's too much pressure.
It sounds like also that you engage your client, and they're a big part of the process.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, well, look, I tell you what, thanks for engaging us. You're going to be a big part of our process.
Absolutely, because we're going to be wearing George Clayton suits soon.
And we're going to, look, anytime you want to come back and visit us, you come back and visit. And of course, always part of Roland Grimes Sports and Entertainment Show. Hey, folks, once again, thanks for joining us. You folks out there in TV land, just want to tell you thanks again for being a part of us. We'll see you next week here on the Roland Grimes Sports and Entertainment Show. Have a great week and God bless. Thank you.
We're going to do a little Q&A.